So we are here to do a Magfest style podcast to talk about Magfest and all things Magfest related. My name is I am Mash the Stampede. I'm Nanners from Two Stupid Gamers, or you could call me Powell. And I am here joined by my good buddy.
Oh, I guess that's the part where I'm supposed to talk. I should have just left it as I should have let that just go awkwardly long. This is Joe from Grand Rapids. I run MyGeekScene.com, short for Michigan Geek Scene, and I love Magfest.
Definitely would have made it harder for me to edit, or
Oh no, you leave that on awkwardly. I mean that awkwardly long pause in there, please. I want that so bad.
um,
If
uh,
you could stretch it out to even a minute, that would be even better.
I put some dramatic music over it or something like that, like some rising tension music.
Oh, that
Um,
would be great too.
but yeah, so we had discussed a long time ago, while I was doing my MacFest interview series for Two Stupid Gamers. It is an immensely important thing for the event, for the organization. I've talked to many people about this, and they agree as well. But there is something that you do lose by doing a one-man video project slash sort of documentary slash interview series at a show that you're trying to go to and enjoy, and a show that, as Joe has described, is basically like a big vacation that's like fun and awesome. And we had talked about that, and I was kind of throwing around the ideas like what to do with the interview series. You know, should I just stop or this or that? And I thought, well, I think one way that we could alleviate some of this, because there are so many people that do want to do the interviews, and of course, I always love any opportunity to talk about MagFest. I know so many people will be willing to do this. That I want to start doing some remote style, like podcast style discussions about MagFest with people that go to the show, people that have a history with the show, and can really like bring something to the table with some of their stories, just like what was done with the interviews, literally the way the interviews were done, but over the internet through the comfort of everyone's house, and we just will do it, essentially anytime, as opposed to having to do everything from Magfest, and then I could kind of just chill out. And because it really is it really changed for me the second that I started to do it, where kind of became like this like passion project. It's like work kind of weekend for me. I don't regret that one bit, but I mean, I think this way we could also get in a lot more people as well, because again, the most I could really do was like 12, 15 people a week at best, and I mean that's like half my weekend really. So I'm having Joe on right now. We are gonna talk about a couple of things, and at the moment, format is somewhat loose, but also since Joe has already been interviewed, it does take out the entire aspect of just asking him the questions. So what I was thinking about was, uh, I have a couple of questions for you. Maybe we could talk about the interview experience as well, and anything else that you think is pertinent to this discussion, we can throw that in as well. So, how does that sound, Joe?
That sounds absolutely fine. We could talk about whatever is pertaining to Magfest. I mean, I can even talk about my experiences doing interviews at Magfest, like the conclusion that I came to like this year alone. The thought process started last year, and then it definitely concluded this year
Right.
about like interviews at Magfest. Like for me,
Yeah. Well, I think we could. Yeah, I think we could go into that and then get into some of these questions. But yeah, we had talked about that before. But would you like to explain a little bit further about that?
about me doing interviews at Magfest.
Yes, and what has changed for you?
Well, like when I went in 2018 to Magfest for the first time, it blew my mind. I was just there for vacation, and I was hoping to do two interviews. One with Kay Murdoch, which I was very successful with, and one with Samus, which I was very successful with. I was happy with both of them, But since that was like my first Magfest, I didn't really know what to expect, and like I had I just somehow magically found a place to do two interviews with, and like with Kyle, I had to record two separate interviews and put them both together, and that worked out. And with Samus, uh, fortunately, after she finished performing, like main stage, I want to say it was Saturday night, I had to wait until her autograph session was done so we could sit down and do an interview and stuff like that. We found a spot to sit down and a lot of background noise and all that jazz. And I was incredibly sick with food poisoning, but I didn't let her know,
Wow.
because I wanted to do that interview. I seriously, prior to that interview, I wanted to throw up so bad because I had garbage food from a crappy restaurant, which I will not mention their name because they're not going to get any publicity whatsoever. And yeah, I was so sick, but I did an interview with her. It came out fine. But it was just like there wasn't really a place for me to do an interview at the time because I didn't get the treatment that you did. But then again, for like this year when you had like when they actually provided you with a room, I didn't know that was an available option. Otherwise, I would have totally went for that. But then again, it was just like all I had was like my audio equipment. I wasn't gonna bring like my video camera and stuff like that because I'm on vacation and I don't really feel like lugging that stuff through the sky to a different state. Da 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 da. Had a good time.
Yeah, I was very fortunate with that situation as well. However, being the inexperienced amateur that I am, if you listen back to some of the audio from that, it doesn't sound too good because I was not equipped to handle that kind of environment. I didn't have any kind of booth that I could sort of like randomly put up and whatnot. It was so last minute, and I mean, even if it wasn't, I probably wouldn't have anticipated because I've just never been in that situation. I do like the interviews acting as like such a big learning experience for me with all the recording and editing and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
it is one of the things I kind of regret. The hotel was perfect. The hotel room was wonderful. I love the Magfest hotel and the hotel rooms. And yeah, I mean there was really no issue with noise. All my roommates were really chill as well, so there really wasn't too much of a problem with that. I mean, honestly, it was a great year. Just like the last year before that was they were great years.
I agree. I agree. I mean, your setup like in the room, I thought was fantastic. And I was like, I'm glad I was part of that. Like it looked good. It sounded good. But the audio, like you said in the other room, wasn't as good, but at the same time, it was far from terrible. Far, far from terrible. I heard everything just fine. I think what you probably could have done to take care of that problem was just to have uh like condenser mics for that situation where they
Yeah,
just hold the mic, a directional condenser mic right up to their face, and then that cuts out all the background noise, and you won't have an echo
echo. Yeah, it was the room echo. That's
or a lav, you know.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I actually want to just finish this
Of
because
course.
I have a tendency to ramble so much. That's my fault. That's why I have questions and I stick to them when I'm doing interviews. So that was 2018. 2019, when I went to MagFest, I had plans to do interviews with two more people. I met two groups, Night of the Round and MC Front a lot. So, and I didn't have a set place to do said interview or set time. So I got to do the interview with Night of the Round at MagFest, but it was an ordeal to go through. And it's not like a horrible ordeal by any means. It took 2 hours from start to finish to get everything done. I had to scout out a place that was quiet. Um, Then I had to check in with MagFest security because I wanted to get their permission first. The MagFest security sent me to uh, MagFest staff to talk it over, and like security and staff were completely cool. Then I had to go get Justin and Adam. I had to wrangle them to go do the interview because they were busy with stuff, and obviously they were going to be performing that weekend, and they were completely cool. Found them, did the interview, tear down, and then get back. And like during that whole 2 hour process, I ended up missing out on like a group that I was interested in seeing. And I don't remember the name of the group, but it's just like, man, it's like I'm on vacation now. I shouldn't have to be working this much when I should be focusing on the vacation aspect. So MC Front a lot. We didn't end up doing the interview at MagFest. He was actually all set to do it on Sunday, and like since he had told me early in the on Friday he didn't think he'd have time to do an interview because that was his first time at MagFest. I understood, so I left my equipment home on Sunday. So I go up, I go see Mega Ran just to say hi, and Frontalot was there, and he's like, "Hey, I have time to do an interview now." And I was like, "Oh no," So it's always that saying, like, always be prepared, man, because
Yeah.
but we ended up doing a Skype interview later on, and it was much better than I would have anticipated at that noisy floor. Trying to
Right.
do it in the dealer's room, no way.
Oh no.
So 2019, I said to myself, if I'm going to be doing another interview at Magfest, it's going to have to be strictly on Sunday, on the dead day, because I don't feel like lugging that equipment around all weekend in hopes of getting an interview, and it has to be on Sunday. So, like for this year, I was supposed to, Magfest 2020, I was supposed to do an interview with Kay Murdoch again. And I said to him, I was like, dude, the only day I'm available to do an interview will be on Sunday. Or I'd be available to do an interview on Thursday before any of the concerts start. Like I was like when I set aside time for you, that was like the only time because if it was going to interfere with me watching a band or a gaming, I was like, I'm not interested in doing any interviews and stuff like that. I like to do interviews, but if it's at some place that I'm holding as a sacred vacation, interviews don't mean anything to me because I can always do interviews through other means,
Of course.
But if it's taking away from time for me doing my vacation, I don't care about interviews. So come Sunday, it was so busy, oddly enough, that we weren't going to have time to do a proper hour long sit down conversation and stuff like that. Because Kyle and I both talk a lot, as you probably already have noticed. And I was just like, yeah, dude, we'll just do this on Skype. And he was cool with it. And we ended up doing it on Skype. So if I made it a point to say to myself from now on, no more interviews at MagFest, for me at least, because I'll bring my business cards along and set up hopefully some connections, but it's like I'd rather do it on Skype prior to MagFest or after MagFest, but I just don't feel like doing it at MagFest. So like for the next MagFest that I go to, hopefully it'll be 2021, fingers crossed. All audio recording equipment is just going to stay home, and that's one less hassle I have to deal with the TSA when I'm flying out of Michigan.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think that the situation worked out perfectly for you there because you just got to just relax on Sunday and not have to worry about throwing in another thing. Again, I absolutely love it, but it's such a labor of love, and it does come at the expense of just enjoying the show. And it's insanely exhausting when I already personally find like a big trip, even though it's supposed to be a vacation. I do find it pretty exhausting. You got to get all your stuff. You got to go do this. Even at the show, like any convention is like this, but MagFest too, because there's so much going on. I mean, you make a schedule, and I want to do this at this time. I want to meet with these people. Meeting people it then became like an issue. I realized after the show I had not met up with certain groups of people that it was always a staple to meet them prior to that, and I just thought to myself, like, I feel like I'm not really doing MagFest. And this year I mean, again, it was my decision, so I'm not saying that I regret anything, and I really like how all the videos came out, and I loved meeting everybody. But I mean, I ended up spending about half of my time at MagFest, it felt like, at least, inside of the hotel or in the room. And I mean, again, like, on the one hand, it was a great experience by itself, but yeah, I mean, I want to lessen the load on that. I want to make it a little bit more doable. Like, even just a few interviews I'm fine with, but like a complete, like, 12 interviews or 13 interviews, 14, 15, it's very taxing. It's very tough to do.
Absolutely, dude. But it's just like, man, I asked myself, what's more important to me, getting this interview? And I absolutely love doing interviews, or experiencing this thing that I only get to do once a year. And MagFest went out, and it's just like, yeah, I'm certainly not knocking you, and I appreciate the efforts that you've gone through to do these interviews. I think they're fascinating and they're very interesting to listen to, especially checking out other people's perspectives. But for me, like if I was running that thing, I'd shut that down in a heartbeat. I'd be like, yeah, dude, I'm not doing this during MagFest. The whole point of me being at MagFest is to enjoy MagFest.
Yeah.
It'd be one thing if like MagFest was like a weekly thing, then I can understand like, hey, yeah, I missed out on some bands, but oh, I have the opportunity to see them again.
Yeah. Yeah,
So no.
the kicker too is like, I mean, you know now Magfest 2021 is up in the air. I mean, again, fingers crossed. Hopefully, we get it. But I mean, that makes it feel even worse. It's like I could have, it's almost like getting half a Magfest, and then we're not even sure if we're gonna get the next Magfest. We'll have to wait an extra year or something like that. It's tough, and there were tons of bands I missed that I wanted to go see. But yeah, I mean, again, this was always a personal project that I randomly came up with because Magfest is awesome and it has a lot of great people that like to come together and do stuff. And I mean, I'm leaving it open that I could still do some interviews and maybe do some of this podcast stuff on the side, or just drop it. It's really unclear at the time, but I mean, the future is always unwritten, so we will see how this goes. I have some questions for you though. Moving on to some more of like the question side. Again, you've already done the Magfest questions that I ask everybody for interviews. So I would say, what have you thought on the subject of Magfest since Super Magfest 2020? Yeah.
Well, before we start this, I would like to say that I'm glad that people are now getting the opportunity to actually hear your voice at an audible level while you're asking questions about Magfest. Because I mean, yes, you're always off camera, and then you can see the subtitles when you're asking your questions and stuff
Those are
like
always
that.
fun to do.
But but you are the voice behind this project, and I'm glad that now people get to hear you talk. Yes, like in your last video on the Magfest documentary, where you actually appeared at the end giving an update and like your plans going forward. I was like, finally. So because if no one would watch, I mean, if everyone just watched just the videos that they were in, no one would know what you look like. So I was glad to see like the mind behind the series pop up. So yeah. So what was your question again on Magfest 2020? What are my thoughts on it?
I'm just asking in general, like, what have you thought about what have you thought on the subject of Magfest since 2020? Like, what's been on your mind regarding Magfest?
Are we gonna get it next year? That's what's been on my mind.
Yeah, I think that's been on a lot of our minds. But yeah, I mean, has it left you feeling with anything that maybe you've changed? You've changed your mind on, or anything like that?
Well, the only thing I changed my mind on Magfest was like I'm no longer doing interviews at Magfest. That's pretty much it. I had an amazing time this year, dude. I saw 22 concerts during the span of that weekend. Like I made it a point to see nothing but music. I did very little gaming. I mean, the gaming was cool, but there was just nothing that was really reaching out to me that I wanted to play, or if there was something I wanted to play, unfortunately, people were there playing stuff, and I was like, "That's their right. That's cool." And I'm mainly here for music. But yeah, I had a good time. I thought it was amazing. I'm hoping I'm answering your question right. If not, I'm just rambling. I
It's
actually
alright.
was glad that, like, because I had mentioned when you had interviewed me earlier this year, that I implemented that process of staying off my phone and living in the moment while I was watching concerts and stuff. Because in
Yes.
2019, as I mentioned, I was glued to my phone, and I hated it about myself once I realized what was going on. Like for this year, ah, the only time I actually checked messages was like between bands or maybe while I was eating. But other than that, nope. Once the concert started, that phone was in the pocket, dude, and I just lived in the moment, and I saw so many great acts, and it was wonderful. Would do it again, 100%.
No, I'm glad that came up, especially during the interview too, because you made an incredible point, and it's almost like I've kind of felt that way, but I've never had it just I've never had that thought like fully fleshed out until you brought it up, and I'm like, you know what, he's Joe's completely right, because you end up missing the thing that you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be in the moment and enjoying. And yeah, I mean, you don't really go back and watch all those. Like, people take so many videos and so many pictures, and it gets lost in all that noise. And it would be much better to just be an active participant in the thing than to get a sick video for Instagram or something like that. I'm still guilty of doing that. I still have done that at recent events and stuff like that. But I mean, for the most part, I've been keeping that in mind a lot, to try to stay in the moment, try to enjoy the thing that I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I'd rather just experience the moment for myself instead of like you mentioned, doing it for like Instagram or social media. Because like at the end of the day, like sure, I might take a awesome photo at MagFest of me doing something, and people are like, "Oh, that's a cool photo," give likes and all that stuff, and then they'll forget about it. It'll be automatically forgotten like within the next 10 minutes or so. I would rather at least be able to look back at an event in my own mind and be like, "Oh, I experienced that. I wasn't doing that through a phone and stuff like that. I wasn't watching it through a phone. I was experiencing it right there in the moment." And sure, I might forget about that, but at least I will always have that experience to cherish for the rest of my life. Sure, you can go back and some of the concerts at MagFest, like the audio, like in person, sounded not so good. But then when I went back and watched it on the Magfest channel, I'm like, okay, cool. I can live through that again. I can relive that memory still. I don't know if I that makes any sense.
No, that does definitely make sense, and a lot of it because MagFest has their audio production is really great on those live videos. There's no other way to say it. And I love watching, because then I'm able to all that stuff that I missed. I'm able to actually go back and watch it. I mean, it's not as good as it's never going to be as good as being there, but you then after MagFest, you messaged me and said like, "Oh, hey, check out these bands." So I could just go back and listen to it, and it sounds great. It sounds really good. I've not listened to I've not watched slash listened to every single one of those. But I definitely did check out the ones that you sent me and check out some other ones that were recommended. Very good audio quality on that.
No, overall, yeah, for sure. I mean, I've like after Magfest is done and like I'm working on other stuff, I'll put on those bands that I've seen and the bands that I didn't see um in the background to listen to what I missed out on. And sometimes you'll end up finding a new band that like, oh shit, I can't believe I missed them. But yeah, I ended up getting into this band called Dr. Zylog from Magfest 2018. I really wish I would have been at that show because that set was like amazing. I thought it was uh metal and chiptune, rock and chiptune, and I was just like, no, it was definitely a metal band and chiptune, and I was just like, this is really, really good. I wish I would have seen that in person. But then I can make a mental note like next time they're at a Magfest type event, definitely catch their show. That's how I felt about Viking Guitar. I missed a Viking Guitar in 2018. But in 2019, I saw Viking Guitar at BitGen Gamerfest, and I made it a point to see that dude perform, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that as well now mentally with all the stuff that I missed. Um, I mean, just anecdotally, like I ended up I ended up losing a lot of energy after one show because I had been interviewing all day, and then I just went to one show and I was like, I want to see the band right after, but I have to get food. I'm just so hungry and tired, and I need to like sit down, like mellow out. And I'm like, oh, I guess maybe it won't be so good. So I just went home, and then when I saw the video afterwards, a friend on Facebook had shared it. I was like, wow, I wish I went there. They covered this, they did that. It was like something I've never seen before. That would have been amazing. So I totally get what you mean about that, like making these like mental notes.
And like ask yourself again, is it worth it? Is it worth doing all these interviews or is it worth experiencing this event that these interviews are about? You know?
Yeah, yeah, it almost gets really meta at that point. It's kind of like, like I'm interviewing all these people about Magfest and their favorite things about Magfest and their stories, and I'm listening to them and kind of having a good time. And I'm like, oh man, Magfest sounds great. I wish I could go. I'm just sitting there stuck in the hotel room.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only positive side is, I mean, I've been to so many Magfest at this point. Like, I've been to a good chunk of them. Let's say, I believe I've been going since about 2015. So I have 5 or 6 done, and that's a pretty good feeling too. Because I remember my first Magfest, and then the one after that, and the one after that. So you do never take those many. Plus, I mean, this year there were still the concerts that I did get to go to were amazing. I tried to do as much, like fit as much as I can. It's so hard to do that with any event, but specifically Magfest, because I'm there for a lot of different reasons. But it was so hard to do it. But I tried to fit in as much as I possibly could. And yeah, I mean, what you get when you do that, you get very tired. You get very drained, very exhausted.
No, I hear you. I'm used to going all day at conventions and long into the night. Very little sleep. I don't know. I guess my body is just wired for that when I'm at conventions all the time. So I felt so bad for my girlfriend because that poor woman had to put up with so much, like staying up so late. The last concert that I went to at MacFest for this year was it ended at 3:40 in the morning, and that was a record release show for Master Sword, you know. And I felt so bad for her because she wasn't there at the concerts and stuff like that. She was just sitting down and gaming and stuff. But I know that she wanted to go back to the hotel and go to sleep because we stay at a separate hotel, and I felt so bad for her, but I was just like, nah, I'll make it up throughout the rest of the year. This is like the only time that I do get to do MagFest. If it was me just by myself, I don't have to worry about anyone else. But with her, I have to um keep her in mind too. But I was like, also I'm here for concerts. I know it sounds totally selfish and it is, but it's just like, yeah, that woman was a trooper. And yeah,
Yeah, that's just it. When it comes to Magfest, you're willing to, like, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. Now you're gonna have to be a good boyfriend the rest of the year, but that's totally worth it because you got to stay up and see the record release show for Master Sword. You know?
no, that's highly debatable on me being a good boyfriend. You know,
Don't
I can
say
think
that.
that I'm being a good boyfriend, but she's the one who is the one who's the ultimate judge of that.
That's true. Um, but that being said, yeah, I mean, Magfest is absolutely something that it's worth staying up and pushing that extra 10% because you get so much out of it. There's so much to do there, and there's so much going on. We do have more questions though, and I wanted to ask you. So, if you could pick one specific thing, like right now, like that looking back, like what would you say right now you miss the most about Magfest and like it being Magfest time? Not necessarily just like 2020, but like in general, even.
Magfest. No, I don't know. I like the whole musical vibe of everything. Just it permeates everything in that whole building. I'm surrounded by people that are into the same stuff, you know, video game music. And it's just it's a thing that I really really enjoy, and like when I think about it, and I smile every time I think about Magfest. At least internally I smile. It's just I can just imagine right now I'm like in the Gaylord walking on my way to the main events room, and I'm just working my way through throngs of people, and I'm getting bombarded in a good way by music from almost every direction. There's people doing this stuff in the jam pods. There's the DJs that set up close to the main events room, and then like when I'm getting to the main events room, then I can hear the chip tune stage down down the hallway. That's that's definitely the one thing I miss the most is being surrounded by tons of people that are there to have a good time, and just like the music that is hitting me. It's all combined together. Just being there is the thing that I miss the most when I think about it. You know, and I mean, it's like, and I like it because it's like I only get to do that once a year, so I feel that it means more. If, like I mentioned earlier, if it was like a weekly thing, I don't think it would have as much of an impact. It'd be kind of like, okay, cool. You know,
Yeah. No, I totally get
what
it.
about yourself?
I totally get it. I mean, honestly, the same. Just I miss that feeling of being in a big video game music festival. I mean, but Magfest is it's so much more than that. Like, it's such a great experience. It is the best weekend of the year for me and a lot of other people. And I feel like as I've gotten older, I definitely appreciate that a lot more because when I was a kid, it was kind of like when I was first getting into conventions, it was like, oh, Comic-Con. Oh, Comic-Con is coming up. Let me do that. Oh, it's time for Comic-Con again. Let's try this new event. Oh, it's time for that new event again. Like, it was like, whatever. It was just the event pops up. But now no, Magfest is a specific time of the year. It is a specific set of memories that I'm going to experience. I'm going to create with a bunch of great people. And it's like you just look forward to it every year. You respect that. It's everything else aside, it's now Magfest time. and we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna meet and play games. Some of us will drink and party. Some of us are just gonna chill out. We're gonna hang out at the Belvedere lobby bar and listen to some good music and find out more like new bands that you've never seen before.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And shout out to the Belvedere Lobby Bar. They had a hell of a setup,
yeah.
or a list of bands that were performing this year. I mean, I got into quite a few. The majority of concerts actually ended up being in the Belvedere Lobby Bar as compared to the main events room. I mean, it was fantastic. The hit points, yeah, I was glad that I got to see them again. And I hope they hit the main stage because that's one of those groups that should be experienced by a lot of people on the main stage. They're just fantastic. I know you didn't even ask about the hit points, but that was definitely one of the highlights of MagFest for this year. And they were definitely one of the highlights of MagFest of last year.
Dude, no, I totally get. I love they. I also respect any opportunity to throw in and plug someone. Speaking of which, though, uh, so for the next Magfest, what band or act or musician do you want to see most? Like,
Hmm.
what's what's like the top band you're looking forward to? What are you most hopeful? Who are you most hopeful to see live at the next Magfest?
I mentioned I would like to see the hit points on stage, the main stage. Is that it'd probably be bands that I haven't seen in person that I've been finding out about. So I'll just throw out Metroid Metal because I've heard so much about them and I have like all three of their albums and they're pretty solid. And yeah, I would be interested in seeing Metroid Metal for the first time ever in person.
Right. Yeah.
But there's so many great acts out there. I mean, like now I know how it feels like when I'm asking people like very specific questions and then they're
It's not fun,
brain
is it?
no, it's not. Maybe I should stop doing it. No, it's like the brain farts. They're
Yeah.
a real thing. But yeah, Metroid Metal would be the answer.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
On a side note, I want to see my friend Mark actually at MagFest. Not necessarily performing, but just being able to experience it in person. That dude definitely deserves to go to MagFest.
Nice. Nice. Um.
What about
So
yourself?
all right. So for me, in terms of who I'd want to see the most, it's just like you said. Like it's so difficult because there's plenty of them. I would definitely love to see Robot Six music again because in his concert in 2019 was it was like mind blowing. It was so good, so good. I'd also like to see him on the main stage as well. But if I could see him again, like at Magfest, that would be just the best. I love that guy's music. Does great chip tunes music, and yeah, I mean, and he has like a fun energy on stage as well. It's always fun to watch him.
Nice.
It's become one of those things again, just like at Magfest. Like I always look out for his concert, him and like a select few others. Like, oh, are they gonna be there? Or he's gonna. I definitely look forward to finding out that he's gonna be at Magfest because that's a great feeling, for sure. Um,
Excellent, dude. Excellent.
yeah, and I want to throw it back to you with some interview questions, because I was wondering. So again, I think the structure of these will be they're not all going to be freeform because we have and we have had each year more and more a lot of people that want to come on for the first time for interviews, and this may not be the ideal way that they wanted to experience it, like that you're on camera and it's at Magfest and we get to meet and afterwards we can like crack jokes and stuff like that. But if some people really want to come and talk about Magfest and just be here, then I'm willing to open up the podcast to to do the regular style questions with those people. It's kind of just like if we were in person at Magfest, just like with the videos before. However, you have already done an interview, so I was wondering, and this is a great long-winded way to introduce and set up and ask a question. But yeah, was there anything during our interview together that you wish that I asked but I didn't?
No, dude, you actually covered all the parts that I was hoping to be asked. Honestly.
Is that so?
Yeah, seriously. I was not bummed out by that process whatsoever. I got to tell my story about what Magfest means to me. You hit everything. You stunned me with like the most metal thing, and I was just like, oh, like I brain farted, you know. And I just want to go on the record that I hope I didn't come off as some elitist prick talking about like dudes peacocking with their metal vests. Because actually, I thought about it. I was like, man, I come off as a judgmental asshole on that, and I wasn't trying to be
I I I
that
I,
way.
I think when you're in that situation, sometimes you end it's recording. Sometimes people say something that they end up regretting even a little bit, sometimes a lot. But like just in general, I mean, I hope people can come onto these and be very free and carefree, and there's no pressure here. There's no right answers or anything like that. Sometimes things do happen, and honestly, I thought that was really funny. I actually kind of regretted. I had some kind of funny idea for what I could have done with that. Like, oh, we could edit something in, but yeah, no, it was dude, it was all good.
No,
However,
no, I
yeah,
don't
what's
feel
up?
bad about like because it's true. Like you do see people that are purposely peacocking at metal shows, like I'm more metal than you, and I'm like, dude, this is not a competition, man. No one's gonna give a shit about your back patch after the show. You know, it's
Right,
like
right,
no
right.
one cares. It's like take it down a notch. I mean, like for those that are purposely going out of the way to show that they're more metal than other people and are acting like an metal elitist, and I can't stand that stuff. It's just like let people just enjoy stuff, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, all
So I was
elitism is annoying.
Yeah, for sure. But on to your next question, so I won't ramble because I can almost imagine it's like Joe, keep it on track.
Well, I actually want to tangent with something for a quick minute, and that's that.
Dude, this is your thing, man. Do whatever you want.
My my thank you. My thing with Magfest, honestly, because when I started to bring the vest there, dude, people loved the vest. That was like really hot the first 3 years I brought it. And I would always get compliments all the time. People would like say like, "Hey," would, like walk up to me and say, "Hey, sick vest, dude," and it was kind of cool. Like I felt like honestly at metal shows, never really. I mean, I got some of that sometime, but for the most part, yeah. Like if I go to a metal show, I don't expect people to compliment me on my vest all that much. I've had like a couple of compliments. I had one awkward conversation with a really like drunk middle-aged dude at a show once and stuff like that. But I don't get too much at Magfest. It's kind of like, man, you almost like are just constantly getting complimented on the vest. So I would argue that you do get a lot of people that care about the vest. But again, I mean the point is not. You're right. It's not to be. There's nothing to be elitist about there. Like you shouldn't be an elitist about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm glad that you got compliments on your vest.
Thank you. Yeah. No, it's always fun. It's you feel like a little celebrity, and you're like, now I have something that I could talk to a complete stranger about, and I love that feeling about Magfest. I love that with vest. I love that with doing cosplayers. I have like a T-shirt or something. Like a couple times at a convention, I would randomly run into someone with the same T-shirt, and you're like, you just talk to them for a little bit about like, oh hey, where'd you get that? Or like, oh I love that shirt. That's I'm like, yeah, it's great.
No, I mean, and I get the vibe from you that you're not wearing that vest just specifically for attention to you. You're wearing that vest because that's a part of you, you know?
Yeah,
Um, and like if you're going down the street and no one talked to you about that vest, you would still be wearing that vest,
I'd
you
still
know?
be me.
Yeah. Just like how I am with like the clothes that I wear. I just wear them because I want to wear them.
Yeah,
Now, if people compliment me on that, I'm like, cool. I will use it, like you said, as an opportunity to potentially talk to them about that, if time allows. So,
yeah.
yes.
It's also like it's the style of it. I just love it. Very it's very important to me because of when I was younger and just how much I was into metal, and I love how customizable it is, how old school it is. It's just it's just an extent. It's my fashion sense. It's an extension of who I am. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't wear it all the time. So it's Magfest is like a rare occasion where I do end up bringing it out. Kind of just have a good old time there.
You don't wear it all the time?
I don't. I actually don't. No.
What?
No. I usually just wear plain gamer clothes.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. According to Manowar, you're not a true metal fan, okay?
Oh no! Oh no! My metal pass has been revoked. What am I gonna do?
Not for me, but for Manowar.
So here's the thing. So here's the
Such a
thing.
cheesy band.
We
Such
talk.
a cheesy band.
I actually do like Manowar. I gotta
I do like
compliment.
some Manowar, but man, Return of the Warlords is one of the most ridiculous songs, and the video for it is even worse. You know,
I
I have
can
appreciation for Manowar, dude. Don't
I
get me wrong.
I can only imagine. I love Eric Adams, great vocalist. Um, great vocalist. But anyway, I actually I brought that up because I remember some point talking to you after. I think it may have even been immediately after the interview, and I remember you asking me that there was actually one question you did wish I was asked, or that you were expecting that I was gonna ask it, right? And
Huh?
that yeah, and you said that you were not expecting that I would go with the ender that I picked. So I ask you now, if you could describe Magfest in one form of medium, like a book, a musical
That
album,
question.
a band, a video game, anything like that. If you could pick one thing that perfectly captures what Magfest is, what would it be?
My goodness, now being put on the spot for that one.
This is why you don't make comments to me after the interview, because I will I have an annoyingly good memory sometimes.
Same, dude. That's how I can come up with questions for my interviews too. From just like little small comments that I will tuck away in my memory banks for later. Huh? I initially said make maybe a roguelite when I was talking to you, because it's always a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that might be a good uh, way to sum up Magfest is a roguelite. And I hate roguelite games. I do. I just don't. Well, I I don't care too much for them. My goodness, hate is such a strong word. Or maybe a choose your own adventure book, but the majority of outcomes are really really good. Like, will I go see this band? Will I go see that band? Will I go hang out with this person? I'm gonna go with choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
But the band that I feel will sum up my Magfest experience is, and I didn't get to see him in person, is Dr. Zylog from 2018. Because whenever I watch that concert, man, especially when the beginning, when it hits those high notes, that is the song I think of every time I walk into the Gaylord for the first time in over a year. When those high notes hit, I think of Magfest, honestly. And I think of that band whenever I come into the Gaylord every single year. Even when I went to like Night Zero earlier this year, just to go see who I would run into and stuff. I was there at that hotel until like well after 2 in the morning, and there was nothing going on. I was just catching up with people who I hadn't seen in well over a year.
It's just to like be there. Just
Yeah,
I completely get it. Like the second you walk in, it like really sets in like, oh, it's Magfest. It is now Magfest. Yeah, I totally agree. That's a great answer. That's a fantastic answer.
I mean it's weird, dude. It really is. Like I went there just to go hang out with Steve's Super Guitar Bros. Then I ended up meeting Kent Ward from Onagaku Overdrive, who ended up interviewing me during a live stream. And then we went and hung out in Brock Island while it was closed off to everyone else. And then I ran into uh, IQ and Creative Mind Frame. And we just talked for hours and stuff. And then I finally ended up going back to the hotel just to get sleep so I can get my day started. It was just, I was there for hours just talking and hanging out with people.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, choose your own adventure would be my way to describe MagFest.
Oh man, I gotta throw in another tangent here. I can't let this go because this was so important to me this year, and this is a touch personal, and I kind of hate to bring up this kind of stuff, but for me, this was a defining memory from this year at Magfest. I don't think I really got to talk about this anywhere, possibly, but yeah. So basically, yeah, like a lot of people, in our like community, I have some social anxiety. I used to have a lot of anxiety, like general kind of anxiety, and through the power of like therapy and stuff like that, I've pretty much dealt with it best as we can. And on most, like 99% of the time now, I'm good, or like let's say like 95%. Let's be safe here. 95% of the time, I'm like really good. But once in a while, I will still kind of like get the beginnings of like all of my anxiety coming back at once. like it's something just happens. I notice something, this happens, whatever. And again, I think partly with Magfest could be also because like energy levels are so high, so much is going on. I'm super like overstimulated and because I'm exhausted and tired and not properly nourished, and also nervous as well, which is more relevant to this. So on the way to Magfest this year, I was on the train because I always train out there, and I suddenly like when the train started to move, I got that moment. I had that moment where suddenly it was like, oh my god, I'm having anxiety again. And the one thing that immediately brought me back was I kind of just thought back to The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, one of my favorite games of all time, and the music that plays when you are doing sea exploration. So the sea, basically the sea song, you know, when you yeah, like it starts slow and then it gets
Yes.
dramatic and then like it really builds up and kicks in. And I thought of that song in my head, and it immediately turned from like this was a horrible moment to like I'm just thrilled because I'm going to Magfest. It was crazy. It was so insane that worked for me. But yeah, I mean, I had a great weekend. We got so much stuff done, and I got to see so much stuff that I don't know. I just kept thinking back to that moment, like it was, you know, like it really felt like I got over something there. You know what I mean?
No, dude, that's excellent. That is excellent. I'm glad that that song helped you cope with that situation and then you felt better, you know.
It just like straight turned the energy, kind of like Link would redirect the wind to suit his needs. It felt like it changed the energy from like something that I can't use to like something positive that was, you know, like really made me feel like I'm on the right path, and like I can't wait to go to Magfest and just get me excited for a full weekend.
Oh, absolutely, dude. Absolutely. I'm glad that that specific song, which I enjoy that song because side note, I recently during this whole lockdown, I actually went through, played Wind Waker HD, and beat it again. So it's like, yeah, I'm definitely familiar with that song. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah,
awesome, dude.
because you hear it so often.
Yes.
Oh man. But yeah, and if I had to pick in terms of like answering that question as well,
Yeah.
you did ask me this on your YouTube channel, but yeah, my answer then was Motorhead. Motorhead's Ace of Spades. I felt like it really captures like just pushing it to 110%. It's really getting stuff done. It's a good time, good party band in a sense, good band that kicks ass. I felt like it represented Magfest, and I still believe that. But like I feel like the answer kind of fluctuates sometimes. I feel like there are many different answers sometimes simultaneously, it feels like. And you brought up games, you brought up roguelikes. I feel like Magfest would definitely have to be some sort of RPG that also has like open world elements where you can do a lot of different stuff, because that's kind of what it's like. You know, it's you make the Magfest experience yours by what you do. I'm gonna focus on concerts. I'm gonna go spend a lot of time in the arcades. You know, you have a bunch of people that you see throughout the weekend. Magfest is great because it's not the biggest event, so you will run into people multiple times for the most part. And it's like they're kind of like your party, and like sometimes you see them and you're with them, and sometimes you don't see them, but you're with some other people, and or you make new friends, you get new party members. So I definitely like the answer of some kind of RPG with open world elements, very customizable, almost like a Fallout game, like the old Fallout games where you spent or even Wasteland, where you spent like the first 10 minutes of playing the game absolutely customizing your character, creating their story for what the character is going to be, what their backstory is, all that stuff. So I would pick that kind of answer too.
That's a good answer, actually. It's better than mine.
There are
Being-
there's no right answers. And also, it's, who knows, this might not be my answer. And the next time we do this, I might have a different one.
I know you say there's no right or wrong answers, but when I compare your answer to mine, I'm like, I like yours infinitely better. You know, I can see the applications of your answer compared to mine.
I think they're both pretty right, but to each their own. But anyway, yeah, I mean, do you have anything else you want to chime in or say or anything like that? Because we're basically running around like the hour mark at this point.
No, that's fine. support Magfest
Yes,
and
please.
like in other events. I'm just hoping that we do get an event next year, but if it's unsafe to have said event for next year, I will gladly wait until Magfest 2022.
Yeah, me too.
This is something that I plan on doing for the foreseeable future because I'm getting up there in age and there'll come a point that I won't be able to go to something like this, or who knows how I'm going to feel in like 15 years. Like, will it have the same impact on me as it is right now? So right now, back to what I was saying earlier, I'm just trying to enjoy the moments as they come to me for Magfest.
Again, I completely agree. It's like I wanna, I want to enjoy it while it's here, and unfortunately, right now we may have to wait a year. But if that's what it takes, I don't think we should put anybody at risk, so that we can have another Magfest until we can do it again properly.
Yes, and when that thing happens, it is going to be glorious, dude.
Yep.
I think it'll be an explosion of happiness and people getting to, and this will be the time that I'll be able to see people that I haven't seen in a long time. And like my plans for like if we both are at MacFest, I'll hope to at least get to hang out with you for maybe like half an hour or something like that, provided there are no concerts going on. Half hour or more. I mean, because like I saw you, we did an interview, and then I saw you briefly at the Super Guitar Bros concert at
Yeah.
uh, Belvedere, and I saw you as I was walking around on the last day when you were leaving. And it's just like you were busy, I was busy, but I was glad that I got to meet you in person. It was a good first impression in person and stuff like that.
And
So,
likewise, I agree completely. Yeah, and that's what happens with the like treating Magfest as kind of like treating it, doing Magfest in like the production life. Production life sucks because you are like constantly like everything has to be set up, everything has to be arranged, everything has to be planned, everything has to be like properly done and prim and proper. And sometimes things come up and issues come up, and you got to deal with it, and you got to tear down and prepare for the next one.
well, I know.
So that just took so much time. That took so much time. But again, we'll see. We'll see how all of this pans out. I'm definitely down to, if anybody wants to do the interviews this way, I'm definitely down. I'll probably throw this on YouTube sooner or later and get them as best as I can. Just get them out there because I like talking to people about Magfest. It's fun. It's a lot
Well,
of fun.
if you do continue this podcast project, I'll definitely check it out, dude. Because I find your interviews, like as I mentioned, and I know I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I do find your interviews fascinating because it's about a subject that I'm interested in, and it's always good to hear people's experiences too. So I've watched all of your Magfest videos that you've put out, and I think what you're doing is great. And like I'm honored to be a part of like this pilot episode,
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate it, and as long as I have the capability, which I do now currently have capability, I'm down to do this. So yeah, I mean, I want to. I always do this whenever there's a podcast, but I'd like you to get an opportunity to promote yourself. So if you would like to promote any kind of social media or anything like that, any projects, websites, anything you've got going on, do that now, and then we can close out the episode.
Sure. I don't know how well my social media is doing right now because my website relies on people coming to it to check out conventions. But and since conventions overall have been not happening, I'll still throw it out there. I run MyGeekScene.com. It's spelled MI as in Michigan, geek as in what I am, and scene as in let's make a scene.com. And well, if you're interested in stuff going on in Michigan, feel free to check that out. Also, I still post interviews that I conduct with guests either via through Skype or at conventions. And I would like to say that I'm fairly good at doing interviews. I ask questions that people generally don't ask because I do about 6 to 14 hours of research on each person, so I can avoid asking the same panel Q&A questions that you hear everywhere else.
So what was it? What was it like playing the Joker, Mark Hamill? How was
Um,
that? How was that
it,
experience?
it was a paid gig that I've done for years.
I think that's a great mindset to have, and that's why I love watching your interviews. Uh, and I'm glad that I was also interviewed as well. That was a great honor to be up there.
Oh, well, dude, you're definitely one of the over 200 interviews that I've done, so.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Joe, thank you for being here, guys. If you wanted to check me out, I am on a couple different places. You could go to youtube.com/twostupidgamers and twitch.tv/mash the stampede. You could check that all out. I'll throw it in the bio for you guys. And there's no regular schedule to this, but we will put this on to... we're recording this prior to any kind of announcement, so I guess we'll just premiere the episode with an announcement once it's finished. And anybody... Yeah, I mean, hey, that's how I operate.
I love it.
You just hit the ground running and you take off. So if anybody else is interested in doing these, and I'm sure there are plenty of people. I know there's a couple of people for sure that will be down for this. Yeah, I mean, let me know. I'll do the best I can to get you on for a Magfest interview. So once again, Joe, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, dude. I truly appreciate this, man.
And thank you, guys, for checking this out. Hope you all have a great night.
Later.